Hey there, everyone. Dave Barlow here with Sell for 1% Realtors. Our special guest here this morning is Mr. Richard Sircone. I don't know your middle name. What's your middle name?
Michael.
Richard M. Sircone.
M. Yes.
Yeah.
Michael.
M. And
how are you, Dave?
Do people, because you obviously are an Italian-based, do they want to call you Sircone? Or has it just always been Sircone?
You know, I answer to anything. Through the years, I've heard it all. Sircone is definitely one of those pronunciations, but actually Sircone is not the correct Italian pronunciation of that because we're not sounding the last vowel, and a C before E always should be the CH sound. So it should be Cercone would be the correct pronunciation. Cercone.
Ciccone.
Right. But, got watered down when my grandmother and grandfather came over on the boat.
Are you, what generation? Third?
Second generation.
Second. So your mom and dad came from?
No, my grandparents came from Italy, and then my mom and dad were born here. Some of my uncles were born in Italy. It was kind of like they were right in that time frame, but my parents actually were born here.
Okay. And we're about the same age. My wife's grandparents are first generation Italian, and and you were talking about your mother-in-law was 99. My mother-in-law was 101. And,
wow.
Yeah, from Florence, Italy is where she was from. So those good Italian genes are long lasting.
And what was her maiden name? Do you know?
Who?
Nana, great grandma.
Florentine.
I thought it was Italiano.
Oh yeah, well, on one side Florentine, the other side Italiano.
That was actually the last name, Italiano.
Yeah.
Wow, that's interesting.
Yeah. So a lot of history. And, I love that kind of stuff. Her grandfather was a Rigo, a Cleveland Rigo, but his real name was Regula. And so, he got changed to Rigo because the guys on Ellis Island didn't give a crap. You're Rigo. Okay.
If we take the W off the end of your name, we could pose you for Italian, Dave.
Well, a lot of people think, that I do have that base, but I'm 65% Welsh, 17% Irish, and then I have some Scandinavian, German. I'm a mutt. So,
well, you were smart enough to marry an Italian girl, so we give you credit for that.
Yeah. You mix the bloodline all up.
Yeah.
But like here in the future, I'm going to start sending my clients over to Richard Ciccone.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
You have to put it in that.
The Godfather.
There you go. So, all right. Well, we're here to talk about interest rates, and so off track a little bit, but that's fine. It's good information. And Richard, been doing mortgages for 30 years or so. Is that about right?
25. I don't want to make myself any older than I need to. 25.
All right.
Since 1998.
All right. I got into real estate March of 1998.
So we've got another thing in common. It sounds like.
You're March.
No, I'm sorry. I was August of 98.
Okay, so
August.
You're just a tad younger in the business.
Yes. I'm a slight bit less experienced.
Oh. Right. Depends on how you look at that, right?
Yeah.
So the point being that you've been doing this for a long time. You've served thousands of clients, and you're pretty well versed on what's happening in the mortgage world and why it is happening, which is why we love having you here on the mortgage discussions. And you're a lot like Ronald Reagan. You can take a very complicated subject and you make it simple to understand. So give us, as of this morning, today is Thursday, January 12th. Where's the market at, and where do you see it headed?
Well, it's all about the economic numbers right now. The Fed, of course, is watching every number that comes out, and every morning on CNBC you can watch, and typically there's something, and some numbers are more important than others. This morning we had a very important number. We had the CPI, Consumer Price Index number, at 8:30 this morning. It came in right at expectation. Shows the CPI was at 5.7%, which is exactly what they expected. Now, the Fed is looking at these numbers, trying to determine, is inflation slowing? And then, of course, they're always looking at the unemployment numbers and the job numbers, which always come out on the first Friday of the month. So the unemployment numbers, the job numbers were about what were expected last week, and then this CPI number about what was expected. So nothing that's moving the markets in any substantial way, one way or the other. But I think a CPI number that is within expectations and not hot is better and is helping the markets a little bit. In fact, well, I don't have it up here right now. I thought I did. But I think the Dow was up a little bit this morning again on that news. And interest rates, not that the interest rate has changed, but we always look at something called mortgage-backed securities.
Right.
And those mortgage-backed securities are trading up a little bit higher this morning because of that CPI news. Again, not enough to move the 30-year rate anywhere right at the moment. But as I've said in past discussions, the Fed is looking forward. What is going to happen next? And the markets want to know what will the Fed do as we get into 2023. The consensus is that rates are going to be high, but there are a fair amount of economists that I feel like know what they're talking about, that strongly feel that at some point the Fed is going to have to relinquish and pivot a little bit and turn towards a more easing bias. Even if they don't start lowering rates, at least if they stop raising rates and say we're going to pause for a while, that would be positive to the mortgage market, because that would be indicative of we're going to see we're going to see at some point in the future maybe rates start to come down. So that would also help. Everybody has their opinion. My opinion is that this is a great time to buy, number one, because rates are a little higher still. People are a little bit hesitant, and as Warren Buffett always said, be bold when everyone else is timid, and be timid when everyone else is bold. Right now, the buyers are not flooding into the market like they were a year ago. This is a great time to get in there and get that house. The rate is not that bad. We're in the low sixes, 6.1, 6%, depending on your credit. Get in there and get the house, and maybe be able to negotiate a little bit some of your terms that you like. And then what we can do later is fix it with a low-cost refinance when the rates come down. So the rates can always be changed, but if you don't have the right house, or you don't buy a house at all, you can't change that. You can't fix that.
Sure.
Date the rate, marry the house, as they say.
There you go.
Exactly. That is a saying I've heard here lately, and kind of corny, but at the same time drives home a point.
Yeah. And have you seen some increased activity with people getting approved for mortgages? Because I'm noticing some increased activity on my listings, and when helping buyers, some increased activity. So
funny you should mention that, Jamie. Now, from where I sit, and I have clients coming from everywhere, and it was crickets chirping towards the end of last year around the holidays, which sometimes happens anyway. But last weekend I sat down to watch some NFL games, and I was relaxing a little bit. And it was Saturday, and my phone just rang off the hook with people wanting to get pre-approved, wanting to talk about mortgage rates, and it's continued into this week. So I'm really busy right now.
That's good.
I think that's a good sign that this is the time when people are thinking about buying for the summer. They don't wake up on May 15th and decide to buy on May 16th. They're deciding that right now, and they're talking to the lenders. And so, yes, I am seeing a little bit more activity. So back to my point, this is a great time. Jump in there, get the sellers are a little bit, their listings are sitting. The sellers are more prone to maybe give you a little bit of a concession and get a good house at your terms, and then we can do a refi later.
Good. So just kind of to summarize a little bit on the rates themselves, it's a balancing act. And so on one side, we have the Fed, who's looking at a number of different things, but we're also looking at CPI. We're also looking at unemployment numbers. We're also looking at mortgage-backed securities. And when all those things are as expected, which they have been over the past week or so, then interest rates kind of settle in because it's already built into the market. It's when one of those things is like out of control, like if the CPI came in, like you said, a lot hotter than expected, then we could see interest rates bump up some as a result, or vice versa. If it comes in much better than expected, then interest rates could drop. So where do you see like March, April? If you were to look into your crystal ball, and this is always a fun one, people ask me all the time, same thing about real estate. It's like, yeah, that's a tough one. But I mean, if you had to say, what do you think March, April as the spring buying market picks up?
Well, I hate to deflect that question, but again, I think it depends on what the numbers all look like. But
sure.
I feel like inflation is not. I mean, again, I'm an amateur economist, but I feel like inflation is not as prevalent as it was. We all remember what gas prices were 2-3 months ago, as opposed to now. Energy prices drive inflation to a large extent because everything has to be shipped and put into trucks and trains, and so with energy costs coming down and maybe getting a little bit further in the rearview mirror on COVID and some of those supply chain issues that we had, I think there's reasons to be positive about the fact that this is going to keep cooling, and as it keeps cooling, the Fed's not going to need to raise rates to counteract that, and so we could see more relief into March and April, depending on, again, what the numbers look like.
So do you think we might get down into the mid fives with is that?
Boy, I hope so. And I'm optimistic that that'll happen.
Okay.
Maybe not as soon as March, but at some point this year, I feel like we'll probably see fives and hopefully low fives. Yeah, we're close.
6 and an 8, 6.125. So we just need a little bit of help to maybe get down to 5.875. And this is one of the things, and you probably remember this back, like around 9/11, interest rates were up around 7%. It always seemed like to me what I saw happening is interest rates were coming down at that time, is that we would be at 7 and an 8, and then we'd be at 7, then 6 and 7/8, and then we'd go back to 7, and we would see the market, like when it came below 7, it would like pop a little bit. And then we'd go back above, and then it would just kind of drift on down. Then we did the same thing at 6%, same thing at 5%. And so I'm guessing we're going to see the same thing here. We're going to flirt with 6%. As we come below 6 into the 5s, you're going to see a little spurt of action. And then hopefully it'll continue to drift on down. And, I don't know that we're ever going to see 3% again. It may be another 20, 30, 40 years, but
Jamie might see it, but you and I might not, Dave. We don't know.
I'm planning on hanging around like your mother-in-law, 99.
Oh, okay.
I'm going to be the old crotchety guy in the corner. Hey, back in my day.
God have mercy on us all.
I'm already doing that. All right, Rich. Well, thank you for your time this morning. It's always good to see you.
You're welcome. Thank you, Dave. Thanks for having me. Jamie, you take care as well.
Thanks, sir.
You guys have a great rest of the week.
You do the same. Thanks.
Bye-bye.